Oh, so gently, the doctor woke the man up. But right at that moment, the match went out again, plunging them back into darkness. The man, thinking it was the pirate Ben Ollie returning, started throwing punches in the dark. He swung wildly, trying to defend himself. But when John Dolittle finally managed to explain who he was and that he had the man's little nephew safe on his ship, everything changed. The man was overcome with joy and relief. He immediately apologized for fighting the doctor, though he hadn't hurt him much. It was just too dark to land a proper punch. As a gesture of goodwill, he offered the doctor a pinch of snuff. Then the man began to tell his story. He explained how the infamous pirate, the Barbary Dragon, had marooned him on this desolate rock. The pirate had left him there to starve simply because he refused to break his principles and join the pirate crew. He described how he had to sleep down in this dark, cold hole in the rock, because there was no shelter, no house to keep him warm against the harsh sea winds. And then he said the most astonishing thing: for 4 long days I have had nothing at all to eat or drink. I have lived on nothing but snuff. From the darkness, Jip the dog's voice piped up, full of pride. There you are. What did I tell you? I knew, I smelled it. So they struck a few more matches, their tiny flames flickering against the damp rock walls. Carefully, they navigated their way out through the narrow passage and finally stepped back into the bright, welcoming daylight. The doctor, seeing how weak the man was, hurried him down to the waiting boat, eager to get him some warm soup. When the animals and the little boy on the ship saw the doctor and Jip returning, not alone, but with a red-headed man, they erupted in celebration. They cheered and yelled and danced all around the boat, their joy echoing across the water. Up above, the sky was a whirlwind of motion. Thousands, no, millions of swallows started whistling at the top of their voices. It was their way of showing just how glad they were that the little boy's brave uncle had finally been found. The sound they made was immense, a deafening symphony of joy. It was so loud, in fact, that sailors far out at sea heard the noise and mistook it for an approaching storm. Hark to that gale howling in the east! They said to one another, pulling their ropes tight. Through it all, Jip was just bursting with pride. He tried his best to look humble, to not seem too conceited, but you could see it in the way he held his tail. When Dab-Dab the duck waddled over to him and said, "Jip, I had no idea you were so clever," he just casually tossed his head. "Oh, that's nothing special," he answered with a cool air of nonchalance. "But it takes a dog to find a man. You know, birds are no good for a game like that." He couldn't resist that little dig. Once everyone was settled and the rescued fisherman had some food, the doctor asked him where his home was. The man described a little fishing village nestled at the foot of a rocky mountain. Hearing this, the doctor turned to the swallows and asked them to guide the ship there first, before they continued their own journey home. The birds agreed instantly, and soon the great ship was sailing toward the man's homeland. As they approached the land the man had spoken of, they saw it just as he had described. A charming little fishing town with cozy houses clustered by the sea. The man pointed out the very house where he lived. While the crew was busy letting down the anchor, a woman came running down the path to the shore. It was the little boy's mother and also the fisherman's sister. She was laughing and crying all at once, her face a beautiful mix of overwhelming joy and relief. She told them she had been sitting on a nearby hill for 20 long days, her eyes fixed on the sea, waiting and praying for them to return. She was so grateful that she threw her arms around the doctor and kissed him on the cheek again and again. The doctor, who wasn't used to such displays of affection, just giggled and blushed as red as a schoolgirl. She then turned her attention to the hero of the hour, Jip, and tried to give him a grateful kiss but Jip, being a very proper dog, got all shy. He darted away and hid himself deep inside the ship, leaving the happy family to their tearful, joyful reunion. What a remarkable end to a perilous adventure! "It's a silly business, this kissing," he said. "I don't hold by it. Let her go and kiss Gubgabiff. She must kiss something." The fisherman and his sister didn't want the doctor to go away again in a hurry. They begged him to spend a few days with them. So John Dolittle and his animals had to stay at their house a whole Saturday and Sunday and half of Monday. And all the little boys of the fishing village went down to the beach and pointed at the great ship anchored there and said to one another in whispers, "Look, that was a pirate ship, Ben Elise, the most terrible pirate that ever sailed the seven seas. That old gentleman with the high hat who's staying up at Mrs. Trevelyan's, he took the ship away from the Barbary dragon and made him into a farmer. Who'd have thought it of him so gentle-like and all? Look at the great red sails. Ain't she the wicked-looking ship and fast? My, all those 2 days and a half that the doctor stayed at the little fishing town, the people kept asking him out to teas and luncheons and dinners and parties. All the ladies sent him boxes of flowers and candies, and the village band played tunes under his window every night. At last the doctor said, "Good people, I must go home now. You have really been most kind. I shall always remember it. But I must go home, for I have things to do." Then, just as the doctor was about to leave, the mayor of the town came down the street, and a lot of other people in grand clothes with him, and the mayor stopped before the house where the doctor was living, and everybody in the village gathered round to see what was going to happen. After 6 page boys had blown on shining trumpets to make the people stop talking, the doctor came out onto the steps and the mayor spoke. "Dr. John Dolittle," said he, "it is a great pleasure for me to present to the man who rid the seas of the dragon of Barbary this little token from the grateful people of our worthy town." And the mayor took from his pocket a little tissue paper packet, and opening it, he handed to the doctor a perfectly beautiful watch with real diamonds in the back. Then the mayor pulled out of his pocket a still larger parcel and said, "Where is the dog?" Then everybody started to hunt for Jip, and at last Dab-Dab found him on the other side of the village in a stable yard, where all the dogs of the countryside were standing round him speechless with admiration and respect. When Jip was brought to the doctor's side, the mayor opened the larger parcel, and inside was a dog collar made of solid gold. And a great murmur of wonder went up from the village folk as the mayor bent down and fastened it round the dog's neck with his own hands. For written on the collar in big letters were these words: Jip, the cleverest dog in the world. Then the whole crowd moved down to the beach to see them off. And after the red-haired fisherman and his sister and the little boy had thanked the doctor and his dog over and over and over again, the great, swift ship with the red sails was turned once more towards Puddleby, and they sailed out to sea while the village band played music on the shore.